All right, let's dive right in. You sent over this great stack of sources, articles, notes, all about something pretty exciting happening in the portable gaming world. We're talking specifically about the new ROG Xbox Ally and its kind of hopped up sibling, the ROG Xbox Ally X.
That's right. Our mission today, really, based on the material you shared, is to unpack what these new devices are, understand what makes them tick, according to these sources, where they fit in the gaming landscape. And I think most importantly, figure out the key takeaways for you from all this information.
Exactly. Think of us as your guides through your sources, pulling out the most interesting bits and, connecting the dots. So, zooming out first, what's the big picture that these articles paint about the ROG Xbox Ally?
Well, the big picture, looking across the sources here, is that these are clearly positioned as powerful new handheld gaming devices. A really significant point they emphasize is that this is a collaboration between two major players, Microsoft and ASUS.
Okay, so this isn't just another ASUS handheld. It's got that official Xbox branding and partnership backing it. That's definitely new.
Precisely. And the core goal, as highlighted throughout these sources, is to deliver that kind of familiar console-like ease and experience. But, in a portable form factor, what's particularly interesting and a key detail from the sources is that they achieve this by running a full version of Windows 11.
Windows 11 on a handheld.
Yeah.
Is it a console? Is it a PC? That blurb is interesting. And speaking of specifics, the sources talk about two different models, right? A base version and then one that steps things up a bit.
Yes, exactly. The material you sent over details the standard ROG Xbox Ally and then the higher spec ROG Xbox Ally X. Looking at the base model first, the sources list its key specs. It's powered by the AMD Ryzen Z2A chip.
Okay, so U2A.
Comes with 16 GBs of RAM.
16 gigs, standard now, it's
Right. A 512 GB SSD for storage.
decent starting point.
And features a 7-inch display with a pretty speedy 120 hertz refresh rate.
And the price point mentioned for that base model, any hints?
One article puts the expected price for that standard model somewhere around the $599 range.
Okay, 599-ish. And the release window,
They cite holiday 2025 as the target.
holiday 2025. Got it. Now, the Ally X, that seems to be where ASUS and Microsoft are really pushing the envelope according to these sources.
It definitely gets some significant upgrades, yeah. The Ally X is said to feature the Z2 Extreme chipset, so, a noticeable performance jump there.
C2 Extreme, right.
It also bumps up the RAM to 24 GB
24 digs. Wow, okay.
and the storage to a 1 TB SSD, so more power, more space.
More RAM, more storage, beefier chip. What about the battery? That's always the big question with handhelds, isn't it?
Absolutely. And that's a critical detail across the sources. The improved battery life, particularly with the Ally X, it boasts around an 80W battery compared to the 60W mentioned for the base model.
80W versus 60W? That's a decent jump.
Yeah, and the expectation, as suggested by these articles, is that the Ally devices, especially the X with that larger battery, will offer, better longevity than the original ROG Ally.
A bigger battery is definitely welcome news. And what kind of performance are they targeting with that Z2 Extreme in the Ally X? Any specifics?
Well, according to the sources, the Ally X variant is specifically aimed at hitting 60 hertz performance in AAA titles.
60 hertz AAA portable.
There,
Okay.
I also drop a fascinating detail. It includes AI capabilities via an NPU, that's a neural processing unit.
An NPU.
Yeah, think of it as a specialized chip built just for handling AI tasks.
Yeah.
And the sources kind of hint this could be interesting for future enhancements in PC games running on the device.
AI capabilities right there on the handheld.
Yep.
It's definitely getting interesting. Okay, so we have the specs for the two models. Let's talk about how it actually feels to use. The hardware, the interface, the software experience seems like a core part of their pitch based on these articles.
It really is.
Yeah.
The sources highlight that it boots directly into a full-screen, optimized Xbox interface on Windows 11.
Okay, so straight to an Xbox screen.
Yeah, that's the idea.
Yeah.
It's significant because it's designed to make getting into your games faster, kind of stripping away some of the standard Windows desktop complexity and minimizing background tasks that could impact performance.
So the idea is you turn it on and bam, you're looking at something that feels much more like a console dashboard than like a typical Windows desktop.
That's the clear intent described in the sources, yes.
Yeah.
But because it is Windows 11 underneath, you still have the full versatility if you want it. Install other apps, delve deeper, whatever.
Right, the PC flexibility is still there.
Exactly. And when it comes to controls, the descriptions across these sources emphasize comfort and that familiar Xbox-style layout. They mention ergonomic contours, impulse and back triggers, precision analog sticks, really mirroring the feel of a standard Xbox controller.
Makes sense for the Xbox branding. And dedicated buttons for key functions. I saw mentions of those.
Absolutely. You've got specific buttons right there for accessing the Xbox interface, view menu controls, and a dedicated library button. Plus other buttons you can assign custom functions to.
Okay. And the display. You mentioned 7-inch.
Yep, a 7-inch IPS touchscreen. The sources note the resolution is 1080p on the Ally X,
1080p. Nice.
while 720p is mentioned for the base model. But crucially, both boast that high 120 Hz refresh rate with VRR variable refresh rate support.
Ah, VRR is key.
Yeah, it helps the screen sync up with the game's frame rate, which means much smoother motion, less screen tearing, really important on a portable.
120 hertz VRR on a 7-inch screen sounds pretty smooth for gaming on the go. How about the audio side? Anything mentioned?
Dolby Atmos support is highlighted in the sources, so suggesting, quality audio for handheld.
Okay. And connectivity, Wi-Fi ports.
You're looking at Wi-Fi 6E, that's the latest, fastest standard for wireless.
Yeah.
Quicker downloads, maybe lower latency for online gaming. It also includes USB-C ports.
Standard USB-C.
Well, and here's an interesting detail for the Ally X specifically, the inclusion of Thunderbolt support.
Oh, Thunderbolt. That is interesting.
Yeah, it's a high bandwidth connection, great for future-proofing, potentially allowing easier docking solutions, connecting external GPUs maybe. Just more flexibility.
Thunderbolt definitely adds value, especially for docking. And circling back to battery one last time with those bigger batteries, 60W-ups and 80W-ups, the sources seem pretty optimistic about improving on the original Ally's life.
That's the strong implication, yeah. From the material you provided, they're definitely aiming for better longevity this time around. Seems like a key focus.
Okay, good. So we have a good handle on the hardware. The big question for many people will be, how do you actually get and play games on this? These sources use the term play anywhere quite a bit in relation to the Ally devices. What does that mean here?
So play anywhere in this context seems to describe the really broad access to game libraries these devices are designed for. As the sources explain, you get full access to Xbox Game Pass, both for installing games locally.
Right, local installs.
And using cloud streaming, if you've got a good connection. Plus, you can use Xbox Remote Play to stream from your home console.
But the sources make it clear it's not just Xbox games, right? That seems like a huge differentiator from, say, a Switch.
That's one of the most significant points these sources emphasize, definitely, because it runs Windows 11.
Ah, right, the Windows core.
Exactly. You can also access your existing PC game libraries from other launchers. Think Steam, Epic Game Store, Battle.net, Joco-G, you name it.
Okay, so basically any PC game launcher.
Pretty much. And the interesting part, according to the articles, is how they try to bring all of this together.
How do they manage that? Does it just dump you on the Windows desktop to find them?
No, they describe a unified storefront UI. This is accessed via that dedicated library button we mentioned earlier.
Okay.
It's designed to show you all your potential games in one place. Games you can download, games via cloud, games via remote play. It sort of pulls your entire potentially scattered digital library into one clean console-like dashboard view.
That sounds ambitious, like all in one list.
That seems to be the goal described. And the dedicated Xbox button brings up the familiar Xbox game bar overlay for, social stuff, capturing clips, performance metrics, that sort of thing.
That unified library approach sounds incredibly convenient if it works as smoothly as described. All right, let's step back and look at the bigger picture, the so what. Why do these devices matter in the wider gaming world based on the sources you sent? What's the significance here?
Well, what's fascinating here, and a clear conclusion you can draw from these sources, is that this is seen as Microsoft, via this partnership with ASUS, mind you, making its most direct and significant play yet in the dedicated handheld hardware market.
Okay, so they're officially jumping into the ring in a big way, not just through software like Game Pass on other devices.
Exactly. And who are these devices stepping up to compete against, according to the sources?
Let me guess. Steam Deck?
Definitely. The sources explicitly named the key competitors. The established Steam Deck, the highly anticipated future Switch 2.
Right, the next Nintendo console.
And even ASUS's own original ROG Ally. These new Xbox Ally devices are positioned directly in that increasingly popular space for portable PC-style gaming and powerful handhelds.
Makes sense. And how do they fit into that whole console versus PC debate? Do these devices kind of help bridge that gap?
They absolutely seem designed to blur that line based on these articles. They're optimized for a controller-first experience,
Yeah.
aiming for that console-like pick-up-and-play feel that makes consoles approachable.
But there's still PCs underneath.
But crucially, yes, because they run a full Windows 11 environment, they retain the core versatility of a PC. You can install standard desktop applications, access that wide ecosystem of PC game libraries we discussed. It's really aiming for that hybrid experience.
It feels like they're trying to capture the best of both worlds in one device, convenience and power. And just to quickly reiterate the timeline and price range the sources suggest, just ballpark figures again.
Uh-huh. The target release is holiday 2025. And the overall speculated price range covering both models seems to be somewhere between $599 and potentially up to maybe $999 for that top-tier LAX.
$599 to $999. Okay, so a premium range, especially for the X. Got it. So looking back at all the material you provided and synthesizing it, what are the core takeaways, the key insights that someone interested in this needs to grasp quickly? What are the potential big wins here, based purely on these sources?
Okay, based on this deep dive into the sources you sent, I think the key insight isn't just that these are powerful handhelds, but that Microsoft, via ASUS, is making a really calculated move. They're using Windows and that familiar Xbox UI to try and bridge the gap between console ease and PC versatility in a way we haven't quite seen from them directly in hardware before.
Right, it's the integration that seems key.
Exactly. What stands out is that seamless gaming dashboard experience promised by the Xbox full-screen UI, optimized for quick access, performance. The sources also stress the comfortable grip for longer play sessions. Small detail, maybe, but crucial for handhelds.
Yeah, ergonomics matter a lot, so a focus on user experience right out of the box.
Precisely. And for the LAX specifically, the sources really highlight its top-tier specs, bringing, near full portable PC gaming power. That convenience factor of having one device that can access both your console-style Game Pass library and your PC libraries like Steam, all in one unified spot. That's another major point these articles emphasize again and again.
The one-device stream for some gamers.
Kind of. And details like the Thunderbolt support on the LAX and the fact the SSD is upgradable, they hint at a design that's maybe looking towards the future, a bit more longevity.
That really helps cut through all the individual specs to see the core value proposition they're aiming for. Okay, so based on the information you shared, what are the suggested next steps for someone listening who is intrigued by these devices? What should you do next?
Well, the sources suggest you should probably keep an eye out for more concrete pricing and availability info later this summer. That's typically when companies start signaling pre-orders for a holiday release.
Okay, so watch for news this summer, but they also recommend a bit of patience, right? Not just jumping on the pre-order.
Yes, that's another important point raised in the material you sent. They strongly advise waiting for independent comparison tests and performance benchmarks once the devices are actually available.
Makes sense.
Seeing how they really stack up against rivals like the Steam Deck or the original ROG Ally in real-world gaming scenarios, that'll be crucial before making a decision. Don't just rely on the marketing hype.
Good advice. Always wait for reviews. And what kind of coverage can we expect to see coming down the line based on what these sources are anticipating?
The articles indicate that future coverage will likely focus heavily on the actual day-to-day experience with Game Pass integration.
How well that really works.
Exactly. Exploring the full potential for cloud gaming on these devices, how reliable is it, how does it feel, and diving deeper into how those AI capabilities, that MPU, might actually enhance the overall PC gaming experience on the go, if at all, initially.
Fascinating. There's clearly a lot more to explore as they get closer to that holiday 2025 launch.
Definitely.
Yeah.
These sources give us a solid foundation, though, a really good starting point based on what you provided.
And that's our deep dive into the sources you provided on the ROG Xbox Ally and the ROG Xbox Ally X. We've gone through the material, highlighting the different models, the key specs, the features, how game access works, and where they seem to fit in the increasingly competitive handheld market, all based specifically on the information you shared with us.
And it paints a pretty clear picture, doesn't it? Microsoft and ASUS making a serious bid to offer a device that aims for both the simplicity of a console and the power and versatility of a PC, right there in your hands.
Which leaves us with a thought for you to ponder based on everything we've covered from your sources. What does the rise of powerful hybrid handhelds like these Ally devices really mean for the future of traditional home consoles and dedicated gaming PCs? Are we genuinely heading towards a single device that can truly do it all, or will distinct platforms always hold their own unique place in the gaming world? Something to think about as holiday 2025 eventually approaches.